We love supporting and promoting the creators of musical theater throughout the world, and we would love to have your support as well. Go to musicaltheaterradio.com and click on the Become a Patron button because a supportive community is a strong community. Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Yovanov. Earlier this May, I went down to New York City to see the Ten Commandments with our good friend David Serrero, but his show was on Sunday, so I had to find something to see on Saturday. Now, I love off-Broadway shows because A, they're usually new or different, and B, they're cheaper and I can afford them. So I was looking through the list of shows and saw the musical Islander. I took a quick listen to the beginning of a few of the songs. I thought, this sounds cool, and got my tickets. Let's just say I was pleasantly surprised and blown away by the show. The next day, I went to the website and sent a message to their PR people that I would love to interview someone involved with the musical because more people need to see this show. And thus, we come to today's guest. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show one of the two leads of Islander, a new musical, Kirsty Findlay. Kirsty, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
No problem. Oh, thank you for the show and what you brought, and it's incredible. And we'll get more into it, but I always like to get to know my guests a little bit better before we get into that stuff. So who is Kirsty in 30 seconds? The 30-second bio.
Oh no, I wasn't prepared for this. Okay, so I'm an actor from Scotland. I grew up there. I've lived there my whole life. I do lots of different things. I'm an actor, singer, actor, musician. I love yoga. That's a big part of my life. This is my first proper stay in New York. So I'm chuffed to be here and looking forward to seeing lots of shows. Is that good?
Perfect. We know who you are now. So were you always into musical theater and theater growing up, or is that something you discovered a little bit later in life?
It was something I've always been into, to be honest. My family's very musical. So my mom is a singer and my dad's a drummer, and they were in a band together. And also various other members of my family are musical as well. So it was a very natural progression for me. I was always supported in my line of work, which was, I think, something that a lot of my actor friends maybe didn't have if their parents were in a more, let's say, financially secure line of work. But I was always very much supported because my parents have been there and they know how it works. So I started off, I think I did music first actually, and then I got more into the acting side of things. And I've been on I do a lot of straight plays as well. So I do musicals and actor musician shows and musicals as well. So I do as broad a mix as I can, to be honest, because I just like doing lots of different things.
It's theater itself that you love, not just musicals or plays, right?
Exactly. It's the live element with the audience and just experiencing it with them.
I'm always curious, is there anything else you wanted to do when you were growing up? You thought, I love theater, but maybe I want to be this. And you just didn't go in that direction.
So when I was really little, I did maybe want to be a vet or a hairdresser. That's kind of it, to be honest. I decided I wanted to do theatre or perform in acting from quite a young age. So when I went to high school, I knew all the subjects I was going to pick and I knew what degree I wanted to do. So it just was kind of a non-brainer for me.
Well, as an actor, you kind of have to do your own hair. So you do a little bit of that. Hairdressing.
That is true. Although I don't have any pets. My partner is very sadly allergic to cats, and I love cats. I'm desperate for to get a rescue cat. And there's so many dogs in New York, and it makes me really want a dog. But, he's allergic to pet hair. So
oh no.
Well.
So no, maybe a fish or something without fur.
We could get a fish. Yeah, I'd suggested it's a minx cat, the ones with no hair.
Oh yeah.
He thinks I like them. He thinks they're terrifying. So that idea has been vetoed from the beginning.
Okay. Well, the fish is easier. You don't have to walk it, and so we'll just throw that out there. And if he's listening later, maybe we've put the bug in his ear. So
yes.
So, where did you go? Where did you study before we get to the island? Where did you study in Scotland, or wherever you studied?
Yeah, so I studied at Edinburgh Napier University, and I did a course in acting with English literature. So I loved it because I'm a big reader. So
Mhm.
it was literally split down the middle, half acting, half English literature. And I was in with lots of English students and film students and acting students. And yeah, I loved it. Edinburgh was a brilliant place to study theatre because we have the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yes.
So every year we would just see as many shows as we could. Some great, some not so great, but that's what the Fringe is. You see lots of people trying new things, and sometimes they're not massively successful, but they tried it and they did it.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Fringe. Just one thing I think a lot of theater people would love to get over there because it's world known, and being there, what's it like to go to that festival? Is it as big and grandiose as I think it is, or what's it like?
Yeah, it's just the whole city is just absolutely buzzing with people. There are certain areas that are so busy that you do tend to stay away from them. Like there's a bit called the Royal Mile
Mhm.
where everybody flyers you with their shows, and they're like, you're stopped every 10 seconds, and
Yeah.
it's just so unless you're looking to see a show and you don't know what to see, I stay away from the Royal Mile. But it's just great. The weather's normally pretty good, which is, well, not pretty good. It depends. It's Scotland, so
Yeah,
you never know what you're going to get.
yeah.
But when the weather is good, there's lots of places to sit outside. There's lots of different food vendors. There's just it's just so amazing to know that there are shows around every corner that you go to.
It's on
Different
my bucket.
shows.
It's on my bucket list to get to for the Edinburgh
Yeah.
Fringe. So one day, one day. So let's talk about this musical that you're in, Islander, a new musical. Tell us a little bit of the synopsis of the show.
Okay, I'll try and give a summary without giving too much away.
Yes.
So the show is about, it starts off with a girl called Ailey, which is my other castmate, Bethany Tennick's character. And she lives on a tiny fictional Scottish island called Kinnan. A lot of people think it's real. It's not. It's a made up island called Kinnan. And the island is going, she's the only child on the island. The child's going through a bit of depopulation. So there's a lot of older villagers, and she's quite lonely. And she finds this whale, this beached whale on the island, and it's not this isn't a spoiler, but it dies on the beach, and then from then there's kind of a myriad of things that happen. Me and Bethany play a mix of many characters. I think I play about 17 characters overall, something like that. And I play Ailey's gran, which is a very heavily Scottish accented, strong, funny woman. And I also play a character called Aaron, which is probably my main character out of all of them that I play. I'm not going to give too much away about her, but she washes up on Ailey's beach, and she's the kind of person that Ailey's never met before, and Ailey's the kind of person that Aaron's never met before. They're from pretty much two different worlds, and the show's really about connection and what your home means to you, whether that's to do with people that you consider home or the places that you're from, and how you navigate that into your life.
Great. I love it. The funniest thing is when right near the beginning you play the radio personality. My brain had to try to catch the words at the beginning. I was like, okay, this is after a while my brain caught on, but sometimes there's words and sayings and things like that
Yes,
we just don't use over here.
yes. We wanted to be really careful actually, because the show features a registered dialect anyway, called Doric. I think it is a registered language. It's a Scottish, let me just call it a Scottish language, and it's from people who are up on the northeast coast of Scotland. And it's very thick. They use words that I don't use. My partner's from up that way, actually. He speaks Doric. He speaks Doric. That's what and we wanted to be careful, because in the UK, and when we did the show in the UK, we kept the accents and we kept the words, because even if people couldn't quite understand, they could grasp it in the context. But just because it's so foreign here, we pulled it back ever so slightly, but we wanted to keep the kind of integrity of this heavily Scottish, specific characters like the DJ, the radio DJ, and the Gran, just so that it was kind of clear that their roots are in Scotland, and we didn't want to lose that. So we didn't want to baby the audience too much. They don't need it. Might take a couple of minutes, but that's fine.
Exactly. It took a little bit. It reminds me of the first time I went to Newfoundland and their accent, and I was like, okay, I got to try and pick this up now. But eventually I did. Yeah.
We said the exact same thing. We went to see Come From Away a couple of weeks ago, and I know they even said, we met some of the cast after, and they said that they'd softened their accents for it. So even for us, like, you know, as a lot of people do, we were still tuning into it, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? But that's okay. You don't. Yeah. I think we've had some comments of people who come and see it that are annoyed that they can't understand every single word, and that I don't really care about that, to be honest, because that's not like, it's good to understand different cultures and to tune into different ways of speaking. And I think if you get it from the context, if I'm clear in my actions, that's enough for me.
Exactly. It's not like I didn't understand what was going on. It was just a word. If it was 30 words in a row I didn't understand, that's a whole different thing. But it's one word I can gain the context of what you were saying. So you did a great job on that. So I understood everything. So how long have you been with the show, and how did you get involved?
So I've been with the show for 4 years now, actually, on and off, obviously, because of the pandemic and various different iterations of the show. I was involved because, to be honest, I auditioned for it as an actor for a show I didn't know anything about. The show had a development the year before I auditioned for it, and that was where, you know, this production of it began. But I actually auditioned. So initially, my character Aaron, my main character, was a boy. So I auditioned for Ailey, which is Bethany's character. And then kind of through the process of the team developing it, there was no script. All that they knew it was about Wales. Ailey was in it. There was a character called Aaron who washed up on the beach. And that was kind of it. They didn't really know what was going to happen. So luckily for me, through the casting process, they decided to change the character to a woman. And then it was offered to me. And we went to this tiny island on Scotland called Mull, one of my favourite islands, and I can't wait to go back. We're hoping to plan a trip there with the team when we can, actually. But we went to this tiny island and we devised the show for 3 weeks. We had 3 weeks to make the show. Finn had 3 weeks to write the music, which I think is insane, because if you haven't seen it, the music is very complicated, and it uses looping technology, which means we loop all of the sound effects, the harmonies, a lot of the tracks live. So Finn had to make those, like, just develop them and teach them to us in 3 weeks. It was a very full-on process.
Wow. The music's incredible. The way it, because like I said, in the beginning, I listened to some of it just to see if I would be interested in the show, and I went, okay, this is good. And then when I saw it live and how you did it, I was like, holy crap, this is brilliant. So is it an easy thing for you to loop and making sure all that stuff works vocally?
So it's easy now because I've been doing it for 4 years. But when we first got to Mull to make the show, we were told we were using this looping technology, which I don't even know was mentioned in the audition. I don't know if they decided yet. I can't really remember. But I had never done looping before in my life. Bethany, my co-star, plays guitar, so she's used a bit of looping. But we basically had to learn a new musical instrument because I had never used anything like it before. And it's very easy for things to go wrong if you're not paying attention. And it's, you know, we've had in the past, or in this version of it, if someone drops something or if someone coughs, it will loop into the show. Mm-hmm. And then Bethany and I have to find a way to take that loop out without losing the main bulk of the song, means we take a lot of focus in the moment to work out how to keep it going.
Well, that's actually one of my questions, because I've run sound, and mics are what they are, right? Sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not, batteries, etc. And Bethany did, I think, drop a mic in the production I saw, and my first thought was, uh-oh, how are they going to fix this if it's not a problem? So has that issue come up, and how did you get through it?
So we've never dropped a microphone in the whole 4 years that we've done it. And
Okay.
that weekend she dropped it, which so we
So you know what show I was at.
I know what I remember the one you were at. But I think it actually might have been because so in Scotland, in the UK, it's a lot colder. But Bethany wears this beautiful, very thick cardigan,
Yes.
very thick cardigan. During the show, and it's a very small space. It's in the round. When there's a fair few people in the room, it gets very hot, and we're under the lights, and we never stop. We don't leave the stage in the whole 90 minutes. So Bethany gets really sweaty, and her hands just lost grip of the microphone just for a second, and she dropped it. But it's not happened since. So
Wow.
touch wood. I think that was just one of those things. But luckily if things go wrong, because we have so much control over the show, we can do it again, loop again, or if it's not a massive part of the song, we can take it out. It depends what it is. We've not had any seriously major issues over the time, I think, but we luckily we know how to fix any problems that we have now.
That's impressive, that over the 4 years, that the one show I'm at, that it happened.
We've never ever dropped a microphone. I cannot believe it happened.
But I'm just surprised it didn't, because it's you're moving so much, and you're moving around the loop deck, and it's so great because there's no set. It's just that rolling box and the two of you, and a pair of raincoats. Right, that's everything, and it's so good what you've done. When you mentioned a little bit about the dialect and over in the UK and here, do you find audiences react differently to the show depending on what country you're playing in?
Yes, definitely. So I think when we first did it, so we've done a few different versions of the show actually. When we first did this version of it, except it was 20 minutes shorter because we were at the Fringe, so it had to be an hour, very strict. So I think because we were playing to mostly a Scottish audience, you could tell they felt a kind of homeliness with the accent. Not everyone, a lot of people, most people in Scotland do not speak Doric, so it wasn't really that. It was just certain phrases that they've heard, that they know what it means. Like there was a kind of familiarity with it, which just the Scottishness of it was picked up really well, and they understood it because it was their country and they got it.
Yeah.
We did it in London. It was a bit more difficult, where we could tell the London audiences were struggling with the accent a bit more than the Scottish audiences. But we could tell they got it. They were still with us. But I think we've had, like, here specifically, we've had laughs in different bits, and bits that do not get a laugh at all. But generally, as like the audiences are a lot more vocal about the reactions, which is really, really nice. I'm going to be totally spoiled when I go back to the UK, because the audiences there are just a lot more, what's the word? They're just quieter, and they're just happy to watch. They'll laugh if it's funny, but they're just not as loud generally as audiences in New York. So that's been really nice, because it means that you know that they're with you. It's just very clear. But it's been great, because even if we've had, like, quite early on, like really small audiences, it seems like it doesn't matter so much the size of the audience as to whether they feel they can laugh or not. That's the kind of biggest difference I've found. In the UK, the smaller the audience, the less they feel a bit awkward about laughing out loud. But you don't get that here, which is a whole thing I'm not used to. It's great.
It's kind of how I feel about seeing Come From Away here in Toronto and in Canada. I'm curious I haven't seen it in New York, and I'm curious how they would react. And I'd be curious how, you know, it plays in London and Australia. And I'd be curious how your show plays here in Canada as well. Because again, we have, I think, being, you know, cousins, you know, that we have a lot more the UK sensibility of theater and comedy and the musicals, etc., etc.
Yeah, we were interested because there's been a lot of chat over the years as to different places that the show could go to. Mm-hmm. The show actually, like, so it's been done in Poland and Korea, not by us, by a different production company, in Polish and in Korean, which I find really interesting because they can use their own dialects for the characters, because it's a totally different translation, which will translate in a really, it'll just come across in a totally different way, which I would love to have seen. But yeah, I've thought about whether like the show would work in Canada or Australia, like places that have got a lot of expats and cousins and, you know, connections to Scotland or the UK in some way, to see what the humor was like. I actually did a show a couple of years ago, another Scottish musical. We played it in Connecticut actually, and like Scotland and Ireland and London, and we did it in Australia, and the Australians really got it. But the people in New Haven, to be honest, there was a lot of swearing in it. Oh. About 6 schoolgirls who were having a night of drinking and mentalness. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they didn't really like women, young women swearing so much. Whereas Australia didn't really have a problem.
It's a dumb thing to say, but it's a totally different country, right? It is just so different down in the US compared to, you know, the ex-Commonwealth or the Commonwealth. You know, we all have the same sensibility. We all come from the same parents. So yeah, I'd love to see your show come up here. I think it would do incredible.
We would love to go to Canada. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with the show next. Me and Bethany have been doing it for a long time now. We've got like Bethany's getting married next year. We've got other shows coming up. There's different things happening, and we're 4 years older than we were when we started. So it's funny. We talk a lot about how we're playing, you know, 16-year-olds at times in the show, and we're also playing like grands. I think she's 85. So like I've got a big mix of characters, but how we've crossed over into being closer to different characters than where we started. Yeah. It's very interesting, and just means we can relate to them in a whole other way.
Well, that's a good question. That you bring up a good point. You've been at it for 4 years. You've grown with these characters for 4 years. Has the characters grown as well and changed slightly, or is it as you've aged, your life is different? And do you bring some of that into it, or is it pretty much the same?
No, it's definitely changed. It changes every time we do it. It's with what you're saying, like life experience, you know, things that have happened, things that you've gone through, age generally, maturity level, like just acting experience. It's just, there's so many layers every time we add, which is why I think why playing so many different characters never gets boring, because there's too many things to grapple with. There's always more layers that you can add on, and doing it for a whole other audience as well means the show changes too, and the characters change, maybe not even consciously, but they change ever so slightly to suit the audience that you're performing to. So for instance, Gran, when I did her in Scotland, she spoke very fast, and she was like, "Oh, Ailey, come on over here," blah blah blah. She was very fast. Whereas here, to help with the understanding of it, in a way, I've made her a little bit older and a little bit slower and more deliberate with the way that she speaks, which is another character element. Rather than working it as a technical thing, we've worked it in the personality of the character, the way that they are, which just is a whole other thing to put on top, which is great.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's very cool that, you know, you've grown up with these characters and they've grown up with you. Yeah. So how long is the show running in New York, and where can people find more information about the show?
So the show is running until, let me get this right, the 31st of July, the end of July. I'm just going to say the end of July. Okay. Because I get mixed up. My friend is getting married at the end of July, and I forget which day's which. It's running till the end of July. Okay. The last Sunday in July. And you can find more information kind of all over the internet. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Twitter, there's a website, there's also a cast recording, which we all did in 2000 and like just before the pandemic, and it came out in 2020, I think. And that'll kind of give you an idea of the music in it. But I think just like you said, you don't really understand what the show is until you see it musically, because it's interesting to listen to, but it's the concept of the show means it's more interesting to see it happen.
Yeah. Well, I downloaded it and I played on the station because as soon as I saw it, I went, I have this. So yeah, it's in rotation. So, so people will be able to experience it at any point. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about it and about yourself. And I think more people need to go see this show because it is so just good. It is so good. And what the two of you bring to the stage is incredible. So congratulations on it.
Thank you. We're really proud of it. And I think because of the times that we're in, it's very, like what you were saying, it's got no set. So it's very theatrical. And it kind of, for us, I think the reason why we keep coming back to it is because it's so based in storytelling, as opposed to, which are very valid, but like spectacle shows, big Broadway shows. And I love big Broadway shows and they've got their own merit, but having something that's really stripped back and is just focused on the connection of the people who are on stage in front of you. That's why we keep coming back to it, I think. Agreed. Incredible. Congratulations. Before I go, just one question. Which character do you match up with best, do you think? Which one do you relate to best? Which one just sees the most of you in that, or them in you? So there's a character in the show called Jenny. She's actually an English character, ironic, because all my other characters are Scottish, but she's a marine biologist. And she is very kind of, I don't know why I picked Jen, actually. She's quite strict in her views. She's very caring about the animals. She tries her best to she loves her job and she wants to do what she can to look after the island and keep it going naturally, which I think she's probably the most similar. Do you know what? It probably changes on a daily basis because I love doing the DJ that I have is loud and she just enjoys herself. She has a great time, regardless if anyone's laughing or not.
It was funny. The DJs, it's just funny. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. We were just speaking with Kirsty Findlay from Islander, a new musical. If you are in New York in 2022, because who knows when you'll be listening to this, up until the end of July, go see this show. We'll be posting it on our social media and things like that. Tune in next week as we'll be speaking with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion. That is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanov. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.